Now, Priti Patel came into her job as Home Secretary apologising for what she herself called the terrible injustices of the Windrush scandal. But many of the families torn apart by the wrongful deportation of people to the Caribbean say they've still not been compensated for the hurt they were caused. I'm now joined by a member of the Independent Advisory Group who delivered the Windrush Lessons Learned review, the human rights lawyer Jacqueline McKenzie. Good morning, Ms. McKenzie.
Morning.
I want to come to the crisis in the Channel in a moment, but let's start about talking about the Windrush scheme. Many of those entitled to compensation from the Home Office say they've had little or nothing out of it. Do you know how many were entitled, how many have claimed, and how many have got money out of this scheme?
Yes, I wouldn't say that absolutely no one has had anything out of it. But you raise a really important point in terms of what are the figures that we're looking at, because I don't think it's very clear. The Home Office have said that 15,000 people should have availed themselves of compensation or being able to make a claim. At the outset, though, when the scandal first came to, I suppose, into the public domain, the figure that we were given was about 50,000 people. 50,000 people that would avail themselves of the services of the Windrush Task Force. I don't know where the 15,000 has come from. That's the starting point. But even if we go on the basis of the 15,000, I understand just under 3,000 has made a claim and just over 800 have had any payment. The Home Office say that one of the reasons for that is that they're not completely resourced. And I say, well, if you're not completely resourced for so few applications, what would have happened if you'd had anything near what you were actually expecting? In terms of the payments, there's lots of problems about that. People are very unhappy with some of the offers, particularly for loss of earnings, loss of pension. There have been some improvements. The impact of life tariff, we think, is an area that has vastly improved. There are preliminary payments, which was introduced by the Home Secretary in December 2020. There's still problems with that, in that very few people are actually getting it. But on paper, I consider that to be an improvement. But overall, the processing of the scheme seems woefully inadequate at the moment.
You have a number of clients who are in this position, who haven't got money or it's been very difficult and so on. Tell us what impact this is making on their lives.
The impact is huge because, remember that at the start of this, we found that people had lost jobs, people had lost houses, some were detained, removed, deported. And if you're now 4 years after the scandal, and I know the scheme's only been in operation, the compensation scheme that is, for 2.5 years. But if you've been, traumatized by being told you're an illegal immigrant or an illegal migrant in this country for over 4 years, some for much longer than that, and you're now having to wait this inordinate time to either have a preliminary offer, to have your claim accepted, or to be paid out, given that you've already come from a place of deprivation. Remember, the cohort within the Windrush generation who are affected by the scandal are mainly very deprived and challenged people who have experienced lower socioeconomic outcomes. And so this is unconscionable that they are having, to wait so long.
What would you like the Home Secretary to do about it now?
Well, I gave evidence to the Home Affairs Committee, and one of their recommendations was that the scheme should come away from the Home Office and go to an independent body. I've now come around. I was concerned myself about delays that would cause, given how long people have been waiting. At the outset, I was one of the people that gave evidence during the consultation exercise that said the Home Office shouldn't have had this scheme in the first place. In effect, they are the people that have carried out the wrongs. It is effectively them marking their own homework. So that was pretty disconcerting to me. But I thought, well, they've got it. We're where we at. They've made some improvements. But I think where we are today, the fact that we are seeing so many people still struggling to even get through this system, the fact that we're still seeing people in the Home Office requesting copious amounts of evidence that's not necessary, asking ridiculous questions of claimants, the fact, and the Home Affairs Committee found this too, that there's considerable mistrust amongst the community affected with the Home Office. At the same time, they're seeing the deportations, they're seeing the discussions about refugees and so forth. I think the time has possibly come now to take the scheme away from the Home Office. Who it would go to is a different question.
But it would be an independent body, you think?
I think it should be an independent body. One of the problems at the moment is that the Windrush scandal is actually being guarded by very tiny grassroots organisations across the country who are helping people to get status documents, to make exceptional payment claims, or to claim compensation. It isn't the large NGO, and there's no funding for this work. And I think, because of that, because a very deprived group of people are finding it difficult to access the scheme properly, it probably now needs to go to either a very big NGO or a professional body.
All right. You have clients, I think, who have taken the route that we've seen a lot of news about this week across the channel. The government wants to make the manner in which asylum seekers arrive in Britain part of the judgment about their claim for asylum. They think that that would deter some people from taking this very dangerous route. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree. And I think the government are all out of order to even consider that, because people are entitled to get to a place of safety. And I know it's predicated on the fact that a lot of them are coming from France, even though, they've passed through lots of other countries. But I suppose this current debate is about people coming from France and making that perilous 25-mile journey across the Channel. And it's predicated on the fact that France is a very safe country. But we do not know what the experiences are in France. In fact, just this weekend, I've had friends, French lawyers from Paris, and colleagues from London who went to Calais to distribute food aid parcels and were told it's now illegal to do that. We have the question of Muslim women not being able to wear the niqab. So, is France a safe country for everybody? It might not be. And we've already rehearsed the reasons why people choose to come to the UK, because of colonial ties, language ties, family, the reception, etc.
But to be clear, Jacqueline McKenzie, you're not really putting the wearing or not wearing of niqab as a reason for people to risk this crossing. I mean, France is a democratic rule of law country. Explain why it is that people have to risk this crossing from a country that is just as safe as Britain is.
Yes, so I'm certainly not putting the wearing of niqab as an explanation. That will probably be relevant to a very small group of people. But, we always try to say that countries are all alike, and they're not. People have different experiences. People have different reasons for wanting to move on to yet another country, and they are entitled to do that. Now, there's all sorts of problems, and we are looking at this in a very basic way. Will they come here and so on? And there are all sorts of complications, I accept. Are the crossings themselves legal without authorization if you enter a port without authorization? But Article 31 of the Refugee Convention actually gives people protection from entering countries without documentation and without the rights to do so. And so people are entitled to make those crossings. Now, they're making an extremely perilous journey. We know some of it, not all of it, but some of it is fueled by criminal gangs. But, there aren't any other ways for a lot of people to do that. We know that the Dobbs Amendment is scrapped. We know about problems with Dublin because we've come out because of Brexit. And one of the, Lisa and Andy spoke earlier about the Afghan Citizens Resettlement Scheme. When is that going to start?
Yes.
We are getting daily calls from Afghans who want to be able to find a safe route to claim asylum, and they're entitled to do so.
Jacqueline McKenzie, it's been good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.